a gun aimed squarely at a black woman's face. A voice snapped, "Freeze!" and Henry Lawson felt his whole body turn to ice. The man holding the gun wasn't some criminal in the night, and he definitely wasn't a police officer. It was the HOA's own hired security guard, a man paid to protect residents but now threatening one on her own doorstep. His reason? The woman looked suspicious, walking to her own front door at 10 o'clock at night. What Travis Barnes didn't realize was that the black woman he threatened, Alicia Lawson, was an FBI commander trained to stare down real terrorists. From that moment, events only unraveled further, as this story shows how an arrogant HOA cop destroyed himself the moment he targeted the wrong black family. Henry Lawson, 56, was a retired diplomat who had weathered riots, coups, and corruption across the globe. Yet the fiercest battle of his life began not overseas, but in the gated community of Brookstone Ridge. 5 years after losing his wife, Henry returned from decades abroad searching for peace. Brookstone Ridge promised safety and quiet streets, but the fine print never warned of an HOA ruling like a private kingdom. His daughter, Alicia, 25, had taken a very different path. After graduating top of her class at Fort Liberty Academy, she rose quickly through FBI ranks, becoming a tactical commander who led raids against traffickers and cracked financial crime rings. She rarely visited home, so when she called to say she'd be spending a few weeks resting after 2 grueling years abroad, Henry was overjoyed. The family had only been in Brookstone Ridge for 3 months when Alicia returned. Henry couldn't wait to show her the new home. But he had no idea that Richard Hale, the arrogant HOA president, Victoria Hale, his status-obsessed wife, and Travis Barnes, the ex-cop turned HOA guard, dismissed from the force for excessive violence, were about to turn that quiet homecoming into a nightmare. The porch light cast sharp shadows across the driveway. Henry opened the front door just in time to see Travis Barnes standing rigid, gun aimed at his daughter's face. His partner Jason Ward lingered nearby, hand hovering over his holster. "I don't care what ID you're showing," Travis barked. "You're not cleared as a resident. Get down now, or I'll treat you as a threat." Have you ever been in a situation where someone abused their little bit of authority just to intimidate you, simply because of who you are? What would you do if it was your daughter coming home at night, only to have a gun aimed at her by the guard paid to protect your neighborhood? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe pointing a gun at an innocent black woman over HOA rules is beyond insane, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for stories that put bullies in their place. Alicia didn't flinch. Years of fieldwork had trained her to read weapons, and she instantly recognized the model, a Glock 19. By the way, Travis gripped it. She knew his license for armed security work was questionable at best. "Travis, what the hell are you doing?" Henry shouted as he rushed forward. "That's my daughter!" He tried to step between them, but Alicia subtly shifted, keeping him out of the line of fire. Travis held the weapon far too long, eyes lit with the thrill of authority. Finally, with a sneer, he lowered it. "Your daughter should have checked in with security," he said smugly. "We have rules here. Even FBI agents, if that's real, don't get exceptions." Alicia studied him quietly, storing every detail. Only when the gun was down did she speak, voice calm but razor sharp. "Mr. Barnes, pointing a loaded weapon at a federal officer without cause is a felony. And unless I'm mistaken, you don't even hold a valid license for armed security in this state." Travis paled, but arrogance resurfaced quickly. "This is private property. Our rules apply. You'll be hearing from the board." Jason tugged his arm, whispering anxiously as they walked away. Henry ushered Alicia inside, his hands shaking with anger and fear. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. This place has rules, yes, but that was beyond unacceptable." Alicia hugged him, steady and composed. "It's fine, Dad. I've seen worse, but this isn't just strict security. It's insecure men with weapons. That's always dangerous." The next morning, the knock came. Richard Hale stood on the porch in pressed khakis, HOA logo on his shirt. Victoria Hale perched beside him like royalty at a club brunch. Richard held a letter, his tone dripping with false courtesy. "Mr. Lawson," he said smoothly, "we need to discuss last night's unfortunate incident." Richard Hale's tone carried the polished ease of a man too used to boardrooms. "Unfortunate incident," he called it, as if Travis pointing a loaded gun at his daughter's face were a scheduling mishap. Victoria Hale hovered behind him. Henry felt the diplomat in him clash with the father in him. Unfortunate? Your man aimed a weapon at my daughter for coming home late. That's not unfortunate. That's reckless and illegal. Richard's smile tightened but didn't break. Our security team was following procedure. Had you properly registered your guest? Alicia stepped forward before her father could speak again. Her voice was calm, polite, but laced with quiet authority. I'm not a guest. I live here when visiting my father, and no policy justifies drawing a gun on a resident showing identification. Mr. Hale, I also noticed irregularities last night regarding licensing. I'd like to know whether all your security officers are properly certified for armed work in this state. For the briefest moment, Richard's facade cracked. Then the mask returned. All of our staff meet the highest standards, Miss Lawson. Now, if you'll accept this warning letter, we can move on. Alicia's smile never faltered. We won't be accepting that, but thank you for stopping by. She closed the door firmly, leaving the Hales stranded on the porch. Through the window, Henry watched Victoria gesture furiously as they retreated. That felt good, he admitted, exhaling. Over the next few days, subtle shifts revealed themselves. Travis Barnes's security vehicle began appearing outside the Lawson home, parked for hours at a time, headlights angled toward the windows. It was intimidation dressed as patrol, and also neighbors who once waved now avoided eye contact. Word traveled quickly in Brookstone Ridge, and it was clear the Hales were steering the gossip mill. But Alicia wasn't wasting her energy on whispers. She spent hours on her laptop, combing through public records, making quiet phone calls from her room. Then came Victoria's attempt at public humiliation. At the local grocery store, she deliberately rammed her shopping cart into Alicia's. "Oh, it's the FBI agent," Victoria said loudly enough for nearby shoppers to hear. "Hope you're not investigating our little store. We're all law-abiding here. Well, except those who don't follow the rules." Alicia's reply was calm, even friendly. "Actually, financial crimes are one of my specialties. It's amazing what people try to hide in plain sight." Victoria's smirk faltered as she scurried away, but not before another shopper. A poised woman in a navy pantsuit took notice. In the parking lot afterward, the woman introduced herself as Jessica Miller, an attorney serving on the HOA board. She leaned in, voice low. "There are things happening in Brookstone Ridge that don't add up. Some of us have been gathering evidence, but we need someone who knows how to use it." Alicia smiled faintly. A new ally had just revealed herself. Jessica Miller quietly passed Alicia copies of HOA financial reports. At the dining room table, Alicia and Jessica highlighted discrepancies that leapt off the page, line items for road repairs that never happened, tens of thousands marked for infrastructure improvements no resident could identify, and most glaring, payments to a security company registered under Victoria Hale's brother's name, charging premium rates for Travis and his crew. "This isn't just sloppy bookkeeping," Alicia concluded, her tone sharp. "It's deliberate, embezzlement wrapped in HOA language." Then the intimidation escalated. One morning, Henry stepped outside to find his garden destroyed, flowers ripped from the soil, fence spray painted with a crude, racist insult. His chest burned with fury. But Alicia placed a steadying hand on his arm. "We needed this. They just crossed the line into criminal harassment. And lucky for us, the cameras caught everything." The hidden devices Alicia had installed recorded Travis and another guard sneaking across the lawn past midnight, laughing as they uprooted plants and defaced the fence. It was the evidence they had been waiting for. By afternoon, the retaliation sparked an unexpected response. Neighbors arrived with tools, Linda Price leading, Jessica Miller with mulch. Soon a dozen residents were replanting, scrubbing, and trading stories of fines, intimidation, and selective enforcement. David Carter, Alicia's FBI colleague, blended into the group quietly, introduced only as a friend. Watching Travis's car creep by again, David leaned toward Alicia. "That's your guy? The one carrying without a license?" Alicia nodded. David's jaw tightened, and he's about to run out of time. For the first time, Henry sensed the tide turning. 2 days after the vandalism, Richard and Victoria Hale appeared on the Lawsons-like porch dressed in artificial smiles. Richard carried a document, his voice smooth as ever. "Henry, I think we can resolve this neighbor to neighbor. No need for more unpleasantness." Alicia read through the contract, eyebrow arching. A mutual non-disclosure agreement. In exchange for silence about financial discrepancies, the HOA promised to stop issuing violation notices. So you want us to ignore the fraud while you buy our silence with fewer fines? She asked pleasantly. Richard's mask slipped. If you know what's good for you, you'll sign. Alicia handed the document back. This conversation is recorded. Threatening homeowners for exercising their rights is harassment under state law. The Hales stormed away. The following week, Richard called an emergency HOA meeting. The community center filled quickly, tension crackling in the air. At the front sat Richard, Victoria, Daniel Cross, the treasurer, and Travis Barnes scowling in his seat. Richard opened with a speech about solidarity and preserving property values. But Henry rose, folder in hand, and moved to the front. Years of diplomatic poise steadied his voice. Before we grant more powers to this board, residents deserve to know how current ones have been used. Murmurs swept the room as Henry revealed inflated contracts, unexplained expenses, and Travis's illegal presence as head of security. Over $300,000 earmarked for improvements simply vanished. Can anyone here point to a single project completed with those funds? Travis rose, fists clenched, but Officer James Alvarez, stationed near the back, intercepted him with a warning glare. The breaking point came when Alicia connected her phone to the projector. Footage filled the screen. Travis pointing a gun at her face, then vandalizing the Lawsons' garden under cover of night. Gasps filled the room. Victoria buried her head in her hands. Enraged, Travis lunged forward, hand reaching for his concealed weapon. In a blur, Alicia stepped into his path, disarming him and pinning him to the floor in seconds. Alvarez moved swiftly, cuffing him as Travis cursed, and then came the final blow. David Carter stood, badge in hand. Richard Hale, I'm Special Agent Carter with the FBI. We need to discuss your offshore accounts. The room erupted. The aftermath of the meeting shattered the Hales' grip overnight. Travis Barnes faced immediate charges: assault, illegal possession of a firearm, criminal threats. His bravado drained as he was marched from the community center in handcuffs. Richard Hale was escorted out separately, David Carter detailing the embezzlement probe and the web of shell companies tied to his family. Victoria slipped away in tears, her empire of tea parties and whispered gossip collapsing in front of everyone. Within days, Brookstone Ridge was buzzing with transformation. Jessica Miller stepped in as interim HOA president, Linda Price elected vice president. The financial documents Daniel Cross surrendered to investigators confirmed everything: inflated contracts, fake companies, money siphoned offshore. Daniel himself, terrified but cooperative, struck a deal for leniency. Federal prosecutors moved quickly. Richard was charged with embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy, later sentenced to 15 years in federal prison with restitution owed to every resident. Travis received 8 years, his law enforcement career buried for good. 3 months later, Brookstone Ridge no longer resembled the community Henry had first encountered. If you believe in standing up to intimidation and holding abusers of power accountable, hit like, subscribe to Story Arc, and share this story so more people see how justice can prevail, even in the places we least expect it.